Well, I tell you what, it's game time. The divisional round of the NFL playoffs are here. After having the bye week last week, the Vikings are back in the game time this week. They'll be hosting the New Orleans Saints this Sunday at US Bank Stadium. The rematch of the 2009 NFC Championship game, also known as the Bounty Gate Bowl. And the difference is, obviously, 8 years ago, they played in New Orleans at the Superdome, and this year, obviously, they're going to be playing at Minneapolis. And so the difference is between the two teams, obviously, there's been a huge makeover for both teams, quite honestly. 99% of the rosters for both teams are completely different from what they were 8 years ago. In the case of the Saints, the only remaining members of the Saints from that NFC Championship game is Drew Brees, and if you want to count him, head coach Sean Payton. And the only remaining member of the Vikings team from that game is Brian Robinson. And so while there's no real connection that these players are going to have as far as 99% of the rosters, there's probably no connection that they're going to have to that game as far as animosity and trying to get paybacks if you're talking about the Vikings side. And even the Saints game, the Saints side, they're not going to have any connection to that game outside of Drew Brees and head coach Sean Payton. But I can tell you one thing, Vikings fans in particular, we have not forgotten that game whatsoever. In fact, I still feel the sting and anger that I felt while watching that game. You got to remember, this is a league, the NFL, this is a league that's predicated ever since Tom Brady tore his ACL in that 2008 season, I believe the season opener against the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a league that's predicated on what? Protecting the quarterbacks. So what do? They want to make sure that the product is still good. They want to make sure that because obviously the quarterbacks are the difference from a team being good and being great, or being not so great and being great. So obviously the product is a lot better when you have the quarterbacks, the best quarterbacks that are playing each week consistently instead of getting hurt in the season opener. This is a league that's predicated on protecting the quarterback. The amount of late hits that Brett Favre took in that 2009 NFC Championship game, and I'm talking about in the pocket, the amount of late hits that Brett Favre took in that game without flags being thrown is completely mind-blowing to this day. And the refs just sat there and watched it happen. This is my biggest gripe with officials. And to this day, for all the ticky-tack calls and for trying to determine what a catch is, and based on this rule, Article 3 and subsection 48, code 46.b states that this rule is this, but you missed the blatantly obvious calls. That is what ticks me off. I get that officials are going to make bad calls, but that was completely irresponsible and completely inexcusable, that officiating crew. I don't give a damn. They cheated. So whenever Saints fans say, who that? I'm like, who them? The Saints? Oh, them? They're the cheaters. That's who they are. And then fast forwarding 8 years to now, obviously, you opened up the season, the Vikings did. You opened up the season beating the New Orleans Saints 29-19 in week 1. And to that, I would say, obviously, this time around in the playoffs, a lot is different. This is not the same Saints team that you saw in week 1 if you're a Vikings player. Primarily their running game. Their running offense is 1,000 times better from what you saw in week 1. I get it. Well, maybe they just played the Vikings defense, and that may be true. But you got to remember, early on in this season, about the first quarter of the season, their running game was built around Adrian Peterson, Mark Ingram, and Alvin Kamara. And then about, a quarter of the season, 4 games later, they traded and you know what? For whatever reason, I will never understand why the Saints signed Adrian Peterson in the offseason. He's a limited running back. We already know that. I'm not going to pile on the dude, but he's a limited running back. And you know the Saints, with Mark Ingram, he's an all-around running back. You knew that just wouldn't be a good fit. So for whatever reason, they signed him. But anyway, they traded him to Arizona, and ever since then, their running game has been spectacular. Then not only that, but their defense is respectable. Their defense is actually not that bad now compared to week 1, when it was a mirror of the New Orleans Saints defenses of old, where you're going through defensive coordinator after defensive coordinator, left and right. Their defense is actually not that bad. And I know the last 2 weeks, they've given up over 300 yards in the air to Cam Newton last week in the wild card round, and the week before that in week 17 to Jameis Winston. And as far as the run defense is concerned, 5 out of the last 6 games, they've given up over 100 yards rushing. Okay, so there's an area of opportunity there. But they're a lot different from what you saw in week 1. Now, here's the thing. Addressing that If you're the offense of the Minnesota Vikings, as far as the running game is concerned, and actually, quite honestly, the running game and the passing game is business as usual. In the case of Jerick McKinnon and Latavius Murray, do what you've been doing all year. Get those consistent 3 yards here, 5 yards here, 4 yards here. And every once in a while, you break one off for 10 yards. You break one off for 12 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. Get those 4 yards per carry. That's all well and good. Eat up some clock. Limit the time of possessions that Drew Brees can get on the offensive side of the ball. And then not only that, but as far as the passing game is concerned, as far as Case Keenum under the direction of Pat Shurmur, again, it's business as usual. Take what the defense is giving you. Don't try to rush things. Every once in a while, you get off a big play if you can. That's great. But it's kind of similar this season, honestly. It's kind of similar to what I saw the Patriots do against the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, where it's death by 5,000 paper cuts. You basically do what you got to do, chew up some clock. Every once in a while, if you can get a big playoff, that's fine. But more important than anything else is to take care of the football. Don't turn the football over, and you'll be fine. And in the case of the defense, here's the thing. I'm not worried about the secondary one bit. I talked about Xavier Rhodes, his ability to shut down the opposing number one receivers, and I talked about last week Trey Waynes and how much of an underrated season he's had this year. And I know a listener on YouTube or a video watcher on YouTube, he commented and he said, well, you know what, Trey Waynes, the thing is, his problem is he's not good at slants, or I forgot what it is he mentioned. And I'm like, you know what, okay, fine. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm breaking down film watching Trey Waynes. Okay, fine. Let's say Trey Waynes is not good at slants, okay? He's had a very good year, but let's say he's not good at slant routes or covering the slant routes. Don't you think that opposing defensive coordinators would know that by now? And for a dude, Trey Waynes, that's going to see the bulk of the targets no matter what, you would think he would be getting gashed like that he would just be getting beat up or basically just getting his ass kicked or his ass chewed out by opposing number two receivers. Because what? Trey Waynes, if he's not good at the slants and he's getting all the targets, okay, then he should be getting beat. Trey Waynes has not been a disaster this year. He's been holding his own. And you know what? He's the number two cornerback, okay? He's going to have some flaws. I get it. And maybe he does have some flaws. He's not as good as Xavier Rhodes. We know that. But I'm sorry. Who are we as Vikings fans to be beggars as far as like trying to be choosers while beggars? So the last couple of years, quite honestly, my entire time being a Vikings fan, you talk about the past cornerbacks that we've had. Outside of that, after Antoine Winfield, you know the best cornerback that we've had as far as since I've been a fan of this team for the last 17 years is Xavier Rhodes. You want to know the best cornerback after that? It's Trey Waynes. Josh Robinson, Fred Smoot. Like, come on now. So I get it. He's not as good as Xavier Rhodes, but that's all well and good. He's held his own. So the secondary, I expect them to do what they've been doing all year. I think they're going to give this New Orleans Saints passing attack a little bit of problems. I think they're going to give them a little bit of challenges. Now, here's the thing. If you want to be concerned about something, again, the Vikings defense is the best defense in the league. I get that. But if there is something to be concerned about, and like I said, this is going to be the biggest test for the Vikings out of the NFC opponents that they have to face, this was going to be the toughest one, and they're getting it right out the gate. So here's the thing. The only thing, if you want to be concerned about something, is the running attack of the New Orleans Saints. Like I said, they got two Pro Bowlers. I believe they're Pro Bowlers, Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. They're kicking ass out there, so you got to be ready for that. You need a great game out of Linval Joseph, out of Anthony Barr, and out of Harrison Smith, who, by the way, congratulations to Harrison Smith on making it to the first team All-Pro selection, as well as Xavier Rhodes, Everson Griffin, and Adam Thielen. They made it to the second team All-Pro team, so good job to them. Even though Harrison Smith didn't make it to the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl is a complete joke. Whatever. I don't even care. But congratulations to them. But you're going to need a great game out of Linval Joseph, Anthony Barr, and Harrison Smith. So they like to use Harrison Smith a lot at the line of scrimmage, and to where it confuses the opposing offense. You don't know if he's going to drop back in coverage, he's going to rush the passer, or play in the middle, kind of like a pseudo linebacker sort of, if you will. So you're going to need great games out of them. And here's the thing. I know, and the only weak link we really have, quite honestly, is Kai Forbath. Look, I've been defending him all year, but the last couple of weeks, I've been very concerned about this dude. He's been killing me. Hopefully, it doesn't get to that point where we have to rely on him, but I've been saying this forever now. Playoff games often come down to kicks, so we'll just have to see about that. But look, if you're nervous as a Vikings fan, I get it. all the history of turmoil and just meltdowns, because it's not the fact that the Vikings lose in the playoffs, it's how they lose. Something stupid always seems to happen, like a kicker missing a layup of a kick at the 27-yard line. Or, for instance, Adrian Peterson fumbling the ball 18 times either in that Seahawks game or the NFC Championship game. Or, and I wasn't around for this, the Gary Anderson missed kick, I believe, in 98 against the Atlanta Falcons. So I get that. But you know what? There's a big difference this time. A, the defense is what is the focal point of this team. And then not only that, but you think about that 2009 NFC Championship game, and forget all the cheating and all the 18 fumbles that Adrian Peterson had. You know what really stuck out to me the most? Not even the most, but what also stuck out to me was the chaos. It seemed like the Vikings, they just were in a panic mode. They had, 12 men in the huddle at one point? You are not going to have that happen with Mike Zimmer. He is a professional among professionals. He is very organized. I expect him to have this team completely disciplined, and it's at your house. So here's the thing. If you're a little bit nervous, I get that. But you know what? This Vikings team, for all the fans that are going to be at US Bank Stadium, they are going to need you. You're going to have a raucous fan base ready to kick some ass out there and support that team like they should. But it's going to be a tight game. Let's not get it twisted. This is going to be a very close game. Last time I checked, the Vikings were favorites by 4.5. It might be closer to 3.5. I'd bet on this game. I said the Vikings will win. I do believe the Vikings will win. But this is not going to be a rosy cheeks game where they just advance and get, I expect this to be a close game. But you know what? Do what you've been doing all year. Shut down opposing number one receivers. So that's going to be Michael Thomas for Xavier Rhodes. Shut down the running game and get after the quarterback, so much so that the opposing offenses has to scratch and claw for every single play they make. Get it done. You're at home. You've got a raucous fan base. They're ready to cheer and support this team. Go out there and win the game. You want to win the Super Bowl? This is what we've all been waiting for, right? If they're going to win the Super Bowl, you're going to have to win tough games. This is going to be the toughest opponent that the Vikings will face in these NFC playoffs. They win, they should be good to go the rest of the way. Obviously, it's any given Sunday or Saturday. I get that. But this is going to be the toughest opponent. Go out there. You've got the better roster. You've got the better, not necessarily the better coaching staff, but you got the better roster. You've got great coaching with a great fan base at home. Go out there and get the win. So up next, we're going to be talking about elsewhere in sports. John Gruden got hired by the Oakland Raiders. The Patriots, they've got drama. And LeVar Ball with the Lakers. What should Magic Johnson do? We'll talk about that. Mediocre at Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy.
Yeah, we worked hard, but now let's play. Pretty girls, they'll come our way. We kicking back, let's all just say it's gonna be a good